Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you all today? Welcome back to Thursday Thoughts, and I'm super excited today to introduce to you Coach Rockshonara Chowdhury. She's come over to talk about overwhelm and how to manage that with children, especially when your child has got special needs. So just a funny story at the back for the background. We've been trying to plan this for a while, haven't we, sis?
Yeah.
And things keep happening, right? And
Yeah.
that's fine because that's life,
Yeah.
right? So it's, certain things have happened on my side and certain things on Sister Rokshanara's side. But we just want to let you guys know that it's absolutely normal. And especially when you have children that need certain things at a certain time and everything's scheduled and things like that, or as scheduled as much as possible. I know you can't schedule everything. Then obviously it's good to be flexible, right? What do you
Yeah.
think, Sid?
Yes, I totally agree, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a couple of months on and off, I think.
We have. Coach Rokshanara is a parent coach with a specialty in working with parents of children with additional needs. As a mum to additional need, sorry, I'm just messing this up so bad. Farida, where are you? Right. As a mum to children with additional needs herself, she understands the journey well and aspires to empower you, sisters, on a similar journey to show up as the best version of yourself and support your child with your challenges and their challenges. So this afternoon, she's going to be joining us to share her tips and strategies on managing overwhelm with a child that has additional needs. And this is going to be awesome, inshallah. So please do watch it. Please do share with your friends and family. I'm sure that some of you, I know I've got sisters. As Sister Rokshanara joined in, I was messaging a couple of my cousins to let them know that we're doing this live right now because it is a really important topic and something that Walaikum salam, sisters. Thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget to hashtag replay and put your questions and comments in the chat. And obviously, we'll just do a normal chat as we normally do. So we just want to talk to you. It's interactive. It's not a lecture. So please just join in and let us know what you think. All right. So I'm going to hand it over to Sister Rokshanara. I'm going to pop out of the screen, but I'm right here. So if you need me, I'll come back. All
Okay,
right.
sure. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to pop myself out if I can. All right.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Coach Rockshonara. As Sarah very kindly introduced me, I am a parenting coach. I specialize with supporting parents of children with special educational needs, additional needs, however you want to describe it. I actually niched into this simply because as a mom of children with additional needs, I was looking for support and I was just looking and waiting around for somebody to come and help me. And it wasn't happening. And I just realized that I had to step up. I've overcome many things in my journey, and I just really want to share that with other moms. I feel like additional needs in the Muslim community is something that is just not talked about enough, and there's a lot of taboo around it. And so I really want to raise awareness. And today I wanted to speak about the overwhelm that comes with raising a child with additional needs, and how I'd like to give you some strategies to support you with that. And for me, in my experience, and I tell this to everyone, key to parenting any child, but particularly parenting a child with additional needs, is accepting your child. But before you can get there, because it's easier said than done, before you can get there, there's just a few things that we need to, as mothers, have some changes in our mindset sometimes, changes in the way we think about ourselves, about our children. But I always believe, I'm a firm believer that in order to support a child with additional needs, you need to help the mother alongside. It comes hand in hand, because a mother that believes in herself, who approaches parenting with conviction, knowing that she's the best mom for her child, will parent from a different place to a mother who doesn't believe in herself, who thinks she's done something wrong, or who thinks there's a problem with her parenting. The energy that you bring to that impacts your child. So it starts with you, but with us as mothers. And so I'm going to jump straight in because I know many of us in the UK, we have got school runs to do as well. So the first thing I would say is don't compare. You know, comparison is a thief of joy. We hear it, but it's so easy to do. And when I say comparison, don't compare your child, don't compare your parenting, don't compare your lives. And it is so easy these days, especially with the Instagram generation, or looking at social media. And you go to school run sometimes, and you say, that mom's like, look at her, she's fully dressed, her kids' hair's combed beautifully. I've thought this myself, and look at me, and you have to look at yourself, yeah, and where you were yesterday and where you are today. What comparison does is stops you from being grateful with what you do have, because all you see is what you don't have, yeah, and then you look at what you don't have, and it leads to having anxiety about the future. And many parents, children with special needs, even I was speaking to a sister yesterday, like she's sitting there feeding her child, and she's just thinking, oh my God, he's throwing food, he's not behaving, he's throwing food on the wall. Is this what it's going to be like for him forever? Is this what it's going to be like for what happens when he's older? How am I going to take him out? All these thoughts, when you're comparing that child to your niece or nephew or another child who's not behaving in the school line, whatever it may be, whatever you're thinking, all these thoughts, they take you away from being present, and they stop you from enjoying the moment. When you're focused on something you don't have control over, like I said, you're not present. Your child needs your presence more than she or he needs you to fix them. And as parents, it's so easy to fall into fixing mode. Like, okay, they're not doing this right. How do I get them to eat healthy? How do I get them to sit still? How do I get them to listen? And you're focused on the next step. You're focused on doing something, changing them. But what your child really needs in that moment is you being fully present. Yeah. And our children miss out when we aren't present, because you can physically be there, but ultimately you're looking at the future, anxiety, your fear about the future, a lot of fear about future, especially if you have children with additional needs. I've been there. I still fall into it. I have to catch myself and bring myself out of it. We're thinking, what's going to happen to my child's future? What happens when I'm not around and they need support? All these thoughts. So what happens? But it's important to be present so you can enjoy the blessing that you have there in front of you. Worrying about their future and the anxiety that comes with it doesn't serve your child. You have a responsibility. You have this amazing blessing to lead your child. But comparing them, it takes you away from leading them. It takes you into a place of fear and anxiety, often anxiety. And anxiety comes from trying to control the future. And we don't even realize we're doing it. But we can't control the future. Only Allah can. And when we're trying to do something that only Allah can do, we're never going to we're never going to accomplish it, and then we're going to feel less than, and that impacts how we show up as a parent as well. So what I say is, focus on what you have in front of you, the blessing that you have in front of you, and focus on what your child can do as opposed to what they can't do. Because when we are comparing, like I said, it's comparison, they say, it's a thief of joy for a reason. When we are comparing, we're not seeing what's in front of us. We're seeing what our child doesn't have, or what I don't have as a mother, what I can't do. I can't organize my time. I can't do this. Because you know what? Many parents with children with additional needs, they will tell you, like, you have to go to so many more appointments. You have to learn and live different jargon: neurodiverse, IEP, ADHD, ASD, EHCP. What does that mean? You had to learn it. You're learning it. You're going to all these specialists, trying to get them to support for your child. You might even have to go to tribunal. There's so much going on, and that's overwhelming you. And then at the same time, you're trying to compare yourself to somebody else's child, or compare yourself as a mother to somebody else who looks like they've got it all, perfect. And it really doesn't serve you, because Allah has blessed you with this child in front of you. And when you focus on what they can't do, or what you can't do for them, it just takes you to despair, which does not serve you, or does not serve your parenting. That is not what Allah placed you or your child in this world for. Because what happens is when you focus on what they can do, you see the blessing in front of you. You choose gratitude over anxiety. And then what happens is Allah says in the Quran, if you are grateful, I will increase you. So when you focus on what you have, you are grateful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we believe, He says it. You know, He says it to us and we just take it for granted. But if we focus on that, trust me, sisters, you will see so many different things, so many different ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase the blessings and barakah in your time and your life. Yesterday, a client sister texted me really late at night, and she had joined my masterclass, and she was like, "I was present with my child, and it was really different. I had no anxiety because I was in front of him. He was making a mess, but I was just looking at him. And guess what happened?" She said, "He actually responded to her, because when you're anxious, your child feeds off of the anxiety, whether your child has additional needs or not." And then what happened? Her child was calmer. He responded calmer. All it needed was for her to be present. And that just made a huge, huge difference. And that was just after like listening to 1 hour with me and just being present in the moment. Imagine we did that more often and how it would impact our child. Okay, so after that, beyond that, what I would say is that it's really important to be our children's safe space, because our children, especially if they have additional needs, they do so many different things differently. Often, if your child, say for example, if they have autism, but they're on, they a lot of people would refer to some, if, depending on where they are at the spectrum, a lot of people will say that, oh, your child doesn't look ill or your child doesn't look autistic. It's called a hidden disability for a reason. Often what children do is they mask. They want to fit in, so then they try and do, um, they listen or behave at school, and they just mask. They be something that they're not, just so that, you know, they fit in, or for whatever reason. But then when they come home, they can't hold it in any longer, and they just have their meltdowns. It's like a, actually, somebody explained it to me when I was getting support as a parent of a child with additional needs, and they said, "It's imagine a Coke bottle. And every time something happens, they have a sensory overload, too much noise, but they can't say anything because it's not what's accepted in society. You think of it as a shake. Every time something changes that is unusual, that they don't expect, it's another shake. And then when they come home, they can't hold it in for a lot that long, because the neurodiversity is all it is that their brain functions differently. It's just they see the world differently to a neurotypical person. Okay, so when they come and they just explode in front of you, it is not that child having a meltdown is not a definition of you as a, doesn't define you as a bad mom, or him or her as a bad child. They're just, they they need that space where they can be themselves and then just navigate their feelings, and you be the safe space where they can, just, if necessary, you know, just have that meltdown in a safe way, and you accept them regardless. Because when a child does not feel accepted by anyone, especially their mother, they start having negative beliefs about themselves. Even a child who is non-verbal, okay, communication doesn't have to be with words. You can just be there and just tell them it's fine, that, and label the emotions. You're feeling angry, you're feeling sad, it's okay, I'm here. And without judging them, calling them naughty, or allowing anyone else to, or just, saying, why are you doing that? The judgment, without the judgment, just be there, be a judgment free space for them. So accepting your child, the good, the bad, the ugly, will help them accept themselves, will help them have internal dialogue about themselves that is positive, because they need they need reassurance that no matter what, you are their safe space, and to feel that you will still be there no matter what their ugly is. Because society views difference as sometimes in a negative way, because what happens is, like, the reality is, we often say, when we have a child, whether you know you have a child with additional needs or not, nobody wants an ordinary child. Everybody wants a child who's unique, extraordinary. But then nobody wants, it feels like society doesn't want you to be too different. You have to be the right kind of different. And it's so hard on that child who's still navigating their feelings, who's still understanding being different, to be that person. And it's important for them to have a safe space where they can just like be not emotionally regulated, but still know that mommy still loves me. And there'll be no judgment. I can go there. And how do you do that? You just listen to them without judgment. And you don't tell them what to do. You don't tell them, don't do this, don't do that. Just let them be in that moment. Help them if you necessary, if you need to, in terms of, oh, you're feeling angry. It's okay to feel angry sometimes. Mommy feels angry sometimes. Anger is a human emotion that Allah has given to us. It's what we do with it that matters. Help them channel that anger. Help them process that anger. Don't suppress it. Don't make them suppress it, because it will come back in a different way. Just listen without judgment and remind yourself that your child is giving you, so your child, often we think our child is giving us a hard time, because it's like, if they didn't have this meltdown, I could get on with something else. It wouldn't be so difficult. They are not giving you a hard time. That's not what they intend to. They themselves are having a hard time. And as mothers, as leaders of our flock, we lead them. We lead them by accepting them and accepting them in any way, shape, or form that they come. And then we listen to them, and then we use our influence to model to them what's the right thing to do. But first, we just listen and we accept, so that we can be their safe space. And following on from that, sisters, it's really important that you acknowledge that your child having special needs doesn't define you in any way. And this is something I can talk for all of England, to be honest. I can talk forever about this. But so many sisters come to me believing that they've done something wrong. And this is quite prevalent in the Muslim community, unfortunately. Uh, and I had a sister, I was speaking to a sister yesterday who was told that, well, you did something wrong in your pregnancy. You didn't eat healthy. You went off to work too much. You weren't focused on the child. And therefore, this child came out different. There's beliefs that the mother or of the father committed a sin. And I've come across this quite a few times, to be honest. I've faced this myself sometimes. Unfortunately, it's really easy to think, oh, no, as Muslims we don't believe this. We don't. It doesn't align with the Quran and Sunnah. It does happen. And I'm talking yesterday. I had a conversation with a sister yesterday who told me people in her family were blamed her, or because other members of her family had autism, that they blamed her. And she started believing, she started internalizing, and she's thinking, well, you know what? I'm not a great Muslim. I didn't always pray on time. Is that because of that? Let's look at it in context, sisters. How many mothers out there don't eat healthy during pregnancies and still have children who don't have additional needs? How many mothers who do eat really healthy? And this is something I spoke to her about, because she has another family member who has children with autism, and that family member was really healthy. She's very into health, and she still had children with autism. There is no correlation. This is, honestly, one of a better word, this is ignorance. And unfortunately, because additional needs, special education needs, autism, ADHD, it's an umbrella for many things as well. Well, because it's not talked about in our communities enough, it's held as a taboo. Because fear of judgment, people just fill in the gap. And so then these ignorant beliefs that don't align with the Quran and Sunnah, guess what? They prevail. And that is why I feel so passionately about this. I feel like it's why I took up this space. because even for me to come up to be a person, a mother who openly spoke about my children having needs, I had to go on a journey to do that. But I know it needed to be done, because it's just every time I talk about it, every single masterclass, every single live session I do, I have people saying this is not talked about enough. There needs to be more awareness. Yeah, sisters, there needs to be, but we need to be the voices that are louder. The Quran says, no soul will bear the burden of another. The Quran is clear on this, you know. Um, Allah, and the other thing is, sisters, if your child, if going by what people say is true, if your child is different, has additional needs because you committed a sin, what does our Lord say in our Deen when you commit a sin? We seek forgiveness, right? We seek forgiveness, and Allah is the most forgiving. Okay, we repent and Allah forgives us. But even if we were to commit a sin and you connected it to your child being different, you go back to Allah and you seek forgiveness. That doesn't stop your child being autistic. That doesn't stop your child having additional needs, because your child is a blessing, not as a result of a sin. It's so important we change this lens that many people look at. And although we don't want to, we want to say, no, 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 it's not in our deen, but deep down we carry that belief. What if, like my client I was speaking to yesterday, what if it was because I wasn't praying properly while I was pregnant with him? What if it was because, oh, that year I didn't give zakat on time? What if it was? That what if is from shaitan. And the beliefs that people throw at you, if you start thinking, oh, it might be true, it enters your heart and you act off the back of that. And that does not serve your child. These beliefs, they are not in alignment with our deen. And I know there will be people thinking that. You get to choose whether you accept it or ignore it. But I want our voices that say, this is not our deen, this is not true, this is ignorant. I want our voices to be louder than those voices, because at the moment, those voices saying you're committing a sin is what causes the differences are still quite loud, still very prevalent. Like I said, I only spoke to a sister yesterday about this. So we need to change that. We need to also look at our children as, well, we need to stop looking at them as something that came as a result of us doing something wrong. So that works the other way as well. If we look at our children as having being different or having additional needs as a blessing that Allah has bestowed upon them, and any challenges that we may face, and there is challenges, I'm not going to gloss over it. I'm not going to say there isn't challenges. There is challenges when your child has additional needs. Some parents face more than others, yeah, but if you look at it, managing those differences as your gateway to Jannah, rather than you having this child because you committed a sin in the past, can you imagine how you will show up differently in your parenting? It is so important that we realize, we acknowledge that Allah, in His innate wisdom, chose you to be the parent of that child. And if that child has an additional need, not everybody would be able to manage it. Not everybody would be able to cope it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who makes no mistakes, chose you and chose me to parent these children, knowing we have the capacity, the ability, and the know-how to do it. And when we don't know, we will learn. But when we're thinking negatively about ourselves, it holds us back. It stops us. Like I was talking, like with some of my clients, they say, I want to do things, but I can't do it. I don't know why. But the thinking is holding us back. We need to realign ourselves with the Quran, realign our thinking with the Quran and Sunnah, and look at it from that perspective. This is a blessing because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to parent this child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't burden a soul with more than it can bear. Even the challenges that you have that come with having a child with additional needs, that in itself is something you can manage, but you have to believe you can manage it. For so long as you think it's too much, it's going to feel like too much, because Allah is as you think of Him. And if you believe that you are the best person for this because Allah chose you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who makes no mistakes, chose you for this role, and He gave you this child knowing you can cope, and you approach your parenting with certainty and hope in Allah. Because I tell you this, I remember when my son was younger and I would worry about his future. He just was one of the eldest kids in his class in madrasa because he just wasn't progressing. I was like, oh my goodness, when is he going to learn surahs? I would try and do surahs with him, but it just wasn't happening. He wasn't learning the alphabets. It just wasn't like registering in his head. And I would make dua, but I would get really anxious about it, and he'd get really feel pressured that he didn't know. Eventually, alhamdulillah, I thought, okay, I'll get as much support as I can and I'll do what I can. He got this amazing ustada who was really understood him. Allah gave him that, teacher. He got an amazing teacher at school as well. And a couple of years down the line, when I focused on making dua and having hope in Allah, what happened? It happened was that he he learned the surahs. Not only I used to pray to Allah to learn a couple of surahs so that he can engage with, in salah and have that connection to Allah. But subhanallah, sisters, he's memorized whole of Juz Amma now. And I know some of the sisters who know me, I've heard this story a few times, but it's really like, really, every time I start thinking, oh gosh, I can't do this, I always remember this to inspire myself. And I hope it inspires you. We think, he was me making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that my son can, learn a few surahs to pray. And I was struggling with the idea that, oh my gosh, what if he can't even do that? But then when I realigned myself and I just thought, okay, no, I'm going to have faith in Allah and I'm going to have belief in Allah, and, he will learn. A few years down the line, he learned the whole of Juz Amma. I don't know about you. He's now doing hifz, okay? But I never saw that coming. When we make dua, Allah always answers. He might not answer straight away. He might answer, the three things he does is answer straight away. First one. Second time, he doesn't answer this straight away, but he answers delayed, okay? Third thing he does is gives you better. Look at that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't answer my dua straight away, but he gave better. My son is now the first person who wakes up for Fajr. Okay. I wake up and he's already done his wudu. And, like my other children, I have to encourage them to wake up. He's the first person at the mosque. He's calling granddad to come, let's go, subhanallah. And I used to worry about, these fears. So we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what Allah has planned for our children. So we do our best. We stay focused to the present, and we have, like, with the future focus, yeah, but be present and don't let our worries overwhelm us, because like I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't burden us all with more than it can bear, but we can bring on the worries and anxiety. We bring that on ourselves by the thinking that we have. If we change our thinking, that really will support us. And all that judgment that comes, like I know many parents, when they first get told that the child needs to be observed, they're like, not at home. I don't want extended family to see, or I don't want my neighbors to know. Why? Because they are so worried about judgment. And I've had it myself. Spoke to too many moms, and I just spoke about it a little while ago, how they get told that, oh no, no, you need to change, or you must have done something, or did you pray on time, or whatever it is, whether it's spiritual or whether you ate something wrong, or you shouldn't have injected your child, given them vaccination. That's another story, yeah. But all these judgment, the fear of judgment. Yeah, but where's the judgment coming from society? They're not going to lead your life. They're not going to live your life. They're not going to support your child. They're not the parents raising your child. Allah chose you, knowing you are the best person. And you are the best person. You've got to believe that. And I know people come sometimes and they come to your house and it's like, you're busy with your children, and sometimes people in our communities, they pop by without telling you. But it's very important to set boundaries as well. Like Sister Iram, I loved her session last week. She talked about boundaries, and you need to have boundaries on yourself. Like, yeah, you can't control what somebody else thinks about you or your child, but you can control what you choose to accept from them. You can control if you reject it or accept it. Choose to reject their negative beliefs about you and your child because it doesn't serve you or your parenting. Choose that. You have that power to focus on rejecting that. You can focus on what you have in front of you, the beautiful child that is in front of you, who can do so much. If you can focus on what he can do, you will notice it. But if you focus on what he can't do because somebody else is saying it, you will lose hope. You will fall into despair. That's where a lot of the, not all of it, but a lot of the overwhelm comes from. And if you can do that, and it's very important also, like I talk about boundaries, to have boundaries with people, even family members. They're entitled to their own opinion, but you don't want them to talk like that in front of your child. Because look, auntie, you look, even your mom. I know you've said that, and I know you believe that, but please, I don't want you to talk about that with me again or with my child. And if they're coming in here and judging you or whatnot, then set boundaries. Boundaries with them. They're saying you, and I know many people who've had it. They come in unannounced, and as many of you know, children who might have sensory overload, children with on the spectrum, not all of them, but often they don't like sudden changes. So if somebody suddenly comes, often we kind of stop what we're doing. We serve them or whatnot, serve them a cup of tea, but then that breaks their routine, our child's routine, who's used to a certain routine. And I had that experience myself, and I know other people have. So then set boundaries, speak to your family, say, look, my child has needs and he or she doesn't like sudden changes. Please let me know so then I can tell. And then what you do is you communicate to them that boundary, and you communicate to your child, today auntie's going to pop by, so yes, we will have some time doing spelling, and then afterwards I'm going to speak to auntie for a while. You can do this, so then your child is prepared. It's so important. I know Sister Sarah and her team are doing a theme on communication at the moment. Communication is very important. You can have the judgment, but you can communicate your standards. You can communicate what you will accept. But first, you need to have the boundary with yourself as well. What will you accept? What are you willing to accept for yourself and your child? And you know what? You communicate to the people. The more you talk about it, the more you believe in yourself as a mother, the more you will talk about it, and the more people will have a different alternative, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Alternative way of looking at it. There's a narrative maybe out there, judgmental narrative. Let's change that narrative. Give them something else. Communicate. Oh, my child can do this. Tell them about famous people who are known to be autistic or have be neurodiverse. Like, we know, many of us mums with children with additional needs, we know about Thomas Edison, how he was told by his teacher that he was adult and he can't be taught, and his mum, who was a teacher, took him out of school and taught him with patience and accepting him being different. And he is an inventor from 200 years ago, and I'm talking to you about him now. There are doctors from Turkey. Okay, oh, I can't remember the name right now, but I would love to, if anybody knows, please post. There are people in this world is a beautiful place because we have people who are neurodiverse. Because people think differently, they were able to these engineers were able to come up with different things. Thomas Edison, he thought differently, therefore he was able to invent things that Joe Bloggs couldn't. There's doctors, I forget his name, he was from Turkey, and although he wasn't diagnosed with autism or diagnosed as neurodiverse, they felt, historians believe, that he was neurodiverse, and he was an amazing doctor. In the field of in Turkey, in medicine, he came up with many things that supported the community in that time because he thought differently. He thought outside the box, not like the neurotypical people, not. And so it's very important that we embrace and accept our children who are different, so then they can flourish and then go on to do amazing things for the world because they belong in this world. they belong. We fear that they will not be accepted and they won't belong in this world, that they won't fit. They don't need to fit in. They belong because Allah placed them in this world. They belong by their sheer existence. They have a place, whether it is to change you as a mother or whether it is to change the world. You don't know, but at the moment, your role as a mother is to accept them, and accept yourself, and not and approach this parenting knowing you are the best person, that you have done nothing wrong, that you can accept or reject. You have the power to accept or reject the judgment from Auntie G or whoever's saying whatever. And you have the power and the strength to put a different narrative out there. You lead your child because you are the leader of your flock. You lead your child knowing you are the best person to parent this child. And you are blessed with that child, and that child is going to take you to Jannah one day. You lead, you do your role knowing that, and you come to it knowing that. Okay? Um, I could go on, but oh yeah, one last thing. I know I've talked for a while is something that we don't do often as mums, whether we have children with additional needs or not, is to be kind to ourselves. We have so much going on in our lives, and me and Sister Sarah were talking about this today because I had my family just had the stomach bug, and I was really I wasn't unwell the whole of the week last week, but I was unwell for a few days. Before I was unwell, a family member was, and after I was unwell, a few more family members were. But even after everybody got better, I just took a day off. Like, I think it was half a day, but I took some time off just to recalibrate myself. And this is something we advise, but we don't take it. We feel, especially moms with children with additional needs, you've got so much going on, and you just think, no, I don't deserve this time because I need to be doing more for my child. Your child deserves for you to be looking after yourself. And also, children won't learn. You're modeling to your child that they always have to be on the go, they have to be busy. They cannot be what they cannot see. They will not learn to recalibrate themselves. They will not learn to be calm. They will not learn to find their peace if you don't choose to look for it yourself. You cannot expect your child to have empathy and compassion for others if they don't know how to feel it in their own bodies. How are they going to feel it if they only feel anxiety from you, if they don't see you feeling calm and compassionate? You cannot pour out compassion to your child unless you pour it to yourself. I mean, I could go on, but I'm going to stop there because I know I've been talking for a long time. Sister Sarah, if you're here, I didn't see all the questions because I was just talking. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Sister Sarah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I forgot to unmute myself.
Oh, there are some questions.
So subhanallah, sometimes I'm doing these talks and I'm so involved in the conversation that I don't listen. So I actually really enjoyed this today because I actually got to sit and listen, which I normally have to do after I've done the live. So it was absolutely amazing for me.
I'm
I
so
had
glad.
a couple of aha moments, and I think some other sisters did as well. So Sister Sabah, she's actually brand new in our Facebook group today, mashallah. She was just invited this morning. So she said that it's so true. It takes a village to raise a child, especially a neurodiverse one. Find your tribe, people that will support you. And that's who we are, you guys. We're
Yes.
your parenting tribe. We're here for you. One of the reasons I called Sister Rockshonara to our channel was because in our extended family, one of my cousins, that's where we started from, I think, right? Or was it
Yeah,
a
I
couple of
think so.
conversations?
Strategy 11. Yeah.
And she was really struggling, and she said something. I remember she'd left a family gathering early
Mm,
because of her son.
mm.
And at the time, because I live so far away, I don't know what's the ins and outs of everyone's. Do you know what I mean? Because I live
Yeah,
really
yeah.
far away, I don't see them every day, so I don't know. And like you said that you said that people kind of have this feeling, or it's a taboo subject.
Mm,
So I didn't even know the extent of the issues.
mm,
Because again, if I'm not there every day and I don't see what's going on, no one's going to tell me,
yeah.
because it's like you said, it's kind of something that we cover up, that we don't really talk about. No one really
No.
mentions. They just kind of say, oh, he needs a bit of support, or he needed to go home early, or whatever it was.
Mm,
But I think that once she had shared that, I
mm,
was able to help her, right?
mm-hmm.
I was in a
Yeah.
position where I could help. So I think that it's really important that any mother that's sitting there thinking, you know what, I go through this struggle every single day. One of my children has got like sensory issues. So, like the label at the back of his t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Just imagine you've just got ready, everyone's ready to go out, and then the boy's like, I'm not wearing that t-shirt. I am not wearing it. But when he was younger, he couldn't explain to me why he didn't want to wear it. He would
Yeah.
just say, no, no, no. And I'd bring out 1,000 t-shirts, change the color, change the fabric, change the whatever. But it was always the label that was
Yeah.
bothering him. And it took me a long time to figure it out. So
Yeah.
again, like you said, when you stop to think, like, where's the issue here?
Yeah.
It's not him that's the issue.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking,
He's not giving you a hard time. He's having a hard time. For me,
exactly.
that was just such a
Yeah, that's
wow light bulb moment for me. It's like,
yeah,
wow, because then you approach, because when you look at a child as being troublesome or giving you a hard time, you're harsher with them,
yeah,
whether you want to be or not,
on
because you're
purpose.
thinking of them as the problem. We have to look at our children in different lights. We have, I tell myself, when I have a child being difficult, no, I can't think of them. I'm saying he is an easy child. She is an easy child. And I just affirm it. Because the more you think it, the more you believe it. And so it's important to change those beliefs.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of reframing the issue. Like you just said, it's not that he's being difficult,
Yeah.
he's having a difficult time.
Yeah.
That is just so important to realize when we switch
Because
it
that's when you
around.
can tap into your compassion. Because as
Yeah,
mothers, we are like instinctively empathetic and compassionate. But if we are thinking in a way that is not serving our parenting, we're not going to tap into that compassion, because a child who's being naughty or purposefully misbehaving doesn't entice you to be compassionate towards them. But then when you look at it and you think, well, no, they're having a difficult time. They're just not communicating. Again, it goes back to communication. They're communicating a need. It's always communication, sis. Whether they are screaming, shouting, even when they're withdrawing, they are communicating. And as mothers, when we are present and we're not worrying about the future or what, judgment from other people, when we are present, we can be the detectives, and we are who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted with this amana. We can figure it out. It might take a bit of time sometimes. One way might not work and another way might work, but you will get there.
inshallah.
Yeah.
And I like the other point that you mentioned about kind of being the spokesperson for the child,
Yeah.
because they can't communicate to others how they feel or what's going on in their minds, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, even like with kids that may not even have any additional needs, just generally speaking, we
Mm.
tend to help them out. And then people say, let them talk for themselves, let them be
Yeah.
independent, right?
Yeah.
But even children that, might not have any additional needs, sometimes they do need you to advocate for them. And
Mm.
with the kids that have these additional needs, then they need that like
Even
double or
more.
triple
Yeah.
fold, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
agree. I totally agree. And sometimes what happens is many children and neurodiverse children are bright in their own way, yeah, and they just realize, okay, fine, this is getting me shown up. And I'm a parent who's had a child who's my son got bullied quite badly because he was different. Okay,
Mm.
so and then now I have to work with him because he masks his differences at
Yeah.
school. He masks it so he doesn't come across different. Yeah, because he's not like, physically disabled. He's not different physically, but he just thinks differently. But then he's picked up that, okay, if I do this, then I look like that next person. Yeah, but then what happens? He comes home exhausted. He's tired. He's snappy because he's used up his. It takes energy to be somebody you're not. You're not meant to be somebody you're not. Allah didn't make you that way. But I sometimes I just sit there worried about him, that I'm thinking, no, I can just only support him. I'll accept him, be how he is. He's tired, go rest, Baba. And I will call him up on it if he's being a bit too snappy, and because it's my job to lead him, but I will do it in a loving and affectionate way, knowing that, oh yeah, he's been masking his differences. So if you and that happens whether you are accepting your child or not, but we can only do our best as a parent. And what you do is accepting your child as they are in every way, shape, they form, they come, makes it easier to just, and then when they realize, and I hope and I pray and I really do believe at some point it's going to click in my son, because he's a teenager now, but click in his mind that, okay, fine, yeah, I don't have to be different. He will find his tribe, like the sister said, he will find his tribe and he can just be himself, so he will not be as tired. But I want to be the place I actually now I and I say this to my clients as well, when your child is having a meltdown and with you, because I've had people say to me, it's you. And in a joking way sometimes. They're fine with anybody else. This is just you, they think. And sometimes they're like, oh, you've come and he's had a meltdown. This is what we're talking about when he was younger. Because you are the safe space. If your child is having mostly meltdown with you or behaving in a certain way with you, you're actually doing it right, sisters.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like what, but it's the truth. You're the safe space. They can be who they want to be, who they can't be with other people, with you. And therefore they can let that guard down and just unleash. And yes, you can help them, lead them, find better ways, more productive ways, to manage their emotions and to have different outlets. That's fine. But don't take it personally. I used to take it personally, and I know many sisters did, when people would say it's you, and some people would say it in a joking way, but I would start thinking, is it me? What am I doing wrong? And when you parent from a place of, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong, it's uncertainty, it's insecurity, and your child feeds off your insecurity and your uncertainty. When you parent from a place of, no, Allah placed me in this role, I make mistakes, I'm perfectly imperfect, but I come back and I go back on, and I come back with conviction. Your child's going to feed off that conviction. Your child's going to have conviction of himself or herself as an individual. And that's the basis of flourishing, because you accept them so they can accept themselves. You accept their differences so they can accept their differences. And once they can accept themselves, because the relationship, sis, with yourself is the most important one. Yeah? Because the relationship with yourself is connected to your relationship with Allah. And when that is strong, they can face so much in the world.
It's really
Sorry, I
beautiful.
went off on one, but I
No,
really, really do feel very
the
passionate
thing
about
is,
this.
I want to go on to the next question, but I'm like, wait, let me just say this. One thing that I just want to mention, which Sister Sima has just said now, like children that don't even have the additional needs, if they have the meltdowns with us and they open up to us, that's ideal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And that is what happens. A lot of us hear that. But
Yeah.
when your child already has additional needs and then someone says that to you, because it kind of grates on you in a different way, I think.
Yeah, because they are
When
different.
someone says it to me, I'll
Uh,
just be like, yeah, well, I'm the mom. But then
yeah.
because you're already dealing with a lot, that
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of puts you over the edge, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
Sometimes it
that's
can be the little thing that, what's the word, the last straw, and
yeah,
then then what happens? And I talk from experience. Then you get frustrated with your child, that if you had behaved better, I wouldn't have done this. You start blaming your child for your meltdown because you have a meltdown. You end up having another meltdown with your child, and it's unfortunate. But I'll be honest, I don't know many parents who haven't done it, and I'm a parent coach, and I'm putting my hand up and saying I've had moments. But it's really
and
important. That's where being kind to yourself and forgiving to yourself is absolutely paramount, because
yeah,
we fall into chasing perfection, and that's from shaitan. Yeah,
absolutely.
nobody's perfect in this
No,
world. Nobody. You know,
no,
we need to differentiate between perfection and ihsan. Ihsan is trying to do something with excellence. We all want to parent with excellence, okay, to please Allah. But when we seek perfection, what happens? The flip side of perfection is real harshness, because we seek to be perfect parents, and then when our children aren't being perfect children, we're harsh on ourselves, but we also pour that harshness to our children, and that does not serve your child, whether they have additional needs or not. But
No.
when we seek excellence, we try to do with excellence, knowing that we're human beings and sometimes we'll make mistakes. We seek forgiveness from Allah, knowing and believing that He will forgive us, because Allah is, as Allah says, I am as my servant thinks of me. If you have hope in that, you can come back because you can recalibrate yourself. We all fall off the bandwagon. We all forget. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I love my servants who turn back to me. That in itself implies that our hearts are always turning, but we can turn our hearts back. That's what's in our control. We can't even control our child. That's not what's in our control. We can only influence them, but we can only influence them once we're connected to them. And how we're going to get connected to them is parenting them with compassion. But in order to give that compassion, you have to have compassion towards yourself and forget the perfection, sis. There's no such thing as perfection. Only angels are perfection, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us more.
Yeah, that's
Look
a
for
really
excellence. Look for excellence. Ehsan, excellence. Try and do with excellence, but knowing that you're a human being, we forget we're humans. We put such a standard of perfection on ourselves. But perfection, I'm telling you, sisters, the flip side of perfection is harshness.
yeah. There's a sister here who's actually having a really hard time at the moment. So she's saying she's got a 4-year-old autistic daughter. She's
Mhm.
non-verbal
Okay.
and she's been unwell since Sunday. So she's just crying and being clingy. She's struggling to even pray or get
Mhm.
other kids' food made because she won't let me leave her. No amount of hugs or cuddles is helping, and I'm at a point where I keep crying because I can't figure out how to help her, and it's killing me. This is Sister Shayla that's asking the question. I want to correct myself. I said Sister Sana before. It was Sister Sabah. Apologies. I obviously need a bigger, better contact lens. But anyway, Sister Shayla, please.
Okay. So, sister, first of all, you're doing amazing. Okay. It's really important for you to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't put this on you if you can't cope. So you can do this and just understand that your daughter crying, you have to look at what you can do. Ask for help where you can, and get takeout. If I'm not advocating takeout, but I'm just saying do what you need to do. The basics, yeah. Look after yourself. Have a moment. Ask your mom, sister, somebody, neighbor, your husband when they come to take her for 5 minutes if necessary. But while you're there, while she's there, and say your husband's at work or your partner's at work or your mom doesn't live nearby, tell yourself that you can do it. You are the best at this. That's the most important thing, first of all, having that belief in yourself. It feels tiring, but you will have. If you weren't going to cope, Allah wouldn't put you in this position. Yeah. Again, your child is not being difficult. It feels like they are being difficult. It feels really difficult. I can wholeheartedly empathize. But your child is having a hard time. And you can lead your child by having good thoughts about yourself as your child's mother, and good thoughts about your child as your child. Yeah. Practically speaking, and that's from a psychological point of view, because our psychology, our physiology, and our spirituality is connected. If we align it with the Quran and look at it from that perspective, that Allah's not burdening me more than I can cope, you come to it with, no, I can cope. You tell yourself, you repeat, I can cope, I can do this, I can do this, because you can. Allah believes in you. You have to believe in yourself. Second point is, and that's physical, that's spiritual, and also that impacts your psychology. And the other point is physically, sis, sit with your child. You don't have to do a 3-course meal for your child. Order takeout. Ask a friend or neighbor to help you out. I don't know how old your older children are, other children are. Well, maybe ask them to help you make a
They,
sandwich or something. Sorry.
sorry, she's just said that she's a single mom. She lives 40 miles away from any family and she believes she's enough, but I just don't want her to be in pain.
Okay, sis. Her being in pain is not in your control.
The
You
other girl
have to.
is, sorry.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm trying to read it as well.
You can't read it, so I'm just like,
Yeah.
which 4-year-old is autistic, and she's got a 5-year-old as
Okay,
well.
that's fine. Okay. Um, I think I think you've got to. I think you understand that you can cope. It's just I think in the moment it feels like too much. So if you're a single mom, sis, and you're in this position, what you ask yourself, I can't do this. How can I do it? Encourage your mind to focus on the possibilities, and the answers will come, sis. I know you're saying family is 40, was it 40, 50 miles away, but like I said, focus on the priorities. Your child is priority. Your child's mental well-being, your mental well-being is priority. Do the best that you can. That is all you can do. But you have to focus on looking at it as I can do this. And like I said, I was ill last week, and I have got, I'm not a single mom, but I told Sarah as well, I switched off for a bit when the kids got better. So you can look forward to that when she eventually, inshallah, gets better, and she will. You can have a moment to yourself, but for now you have to do what you need to do. I just really did the basics in terms of cooking. Sometimes we just had sandwiches, sometimes we had and I don't know if your child has needs in terms of food. When your other child is 5, just do the bare basics and carry her, do whatever it needs to be done, and do it with her, knowing that you can do it. It's hard to see our children in pain, but this is something that's not in your control. You do everything you can, whether it be going to the doctors or whatever, get the medication, whatever you need to do, and console her. But you can't do it. You do what's in your control and believe that you can do it, and you can support them. And just if where you can, you ask for help. Where you can't, you prioritize and do the bare minimum. Because don't overextend yourself. That's where you get burnout. Hope
And
that helps it.
again, just coming from like the other side of, even if the child wasn't special, didn't have these additional needs, they still would want you. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's really important to kind of understand, that they still, like any child, would want their mum when they're feeling sick. And like Sister Rockshonara said, and a few weeks ago, we were in the same position. My kids had a week off, all activities and school and stuff, because of the same thing. And my 5-year-old didn't want to leave me, but sometimes they cry, and we do have to leave them for a few minutes. It doesn't mean that it's going to hurt them, that crying. They're just literally calling out to you. So just
Mm.
keep on reassuring them, don't worry, I'm just here, I'm just chucking a pizza in the oven.
Mm.
That, for
Yeah.
me, that's the easiest. Pizza, fish fingers, oven chips.
Yeah.
Cook it all in the oven, and then half an hour later
You can
you
switch it off and then go back to your child for a bit. I mean, yes, that's the thing. There's this belief that you constantly have to be a child to prove that you're a good mom, that your child can't cry. Not that I'm encouraging crying out method or anything like that. I'm just saying sometimes, like Sister Sarah said, sometimes them going through difficulties, it will make them resilient. You know, you didn't appreciate, you cannot, they when they overcome this, they'll be stronger for it. It's hard as a mom. You're having to become resilient emotionally. It's always hard to watch our child suffer. It's hard to watch any loved person, any person that you love suffer, but they're in pain. This is what's been ordained for them. You support them the best as you can in what is in your control, and focus on that, not focus on what you can't do. It goes back to that. When we focus on what we can't do, we go back to despair. And when we focus on what we can do, we're actually grateful for the opportunity to be able to support our child, because you are earning your akhirah in supporting your child. And they will get resilient. And them being in pain isn't a reflection of you being a bad mom. This is what they're going through. Our children have to go through illnesses. It is part of growing up.
Jazakallah khair, sister. That's really awesome advice. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by my son. Yes, that's the key. He wants to go to the car. Yeah, so Sister Sheila is thanking you abundantly, because I think what's another really important fact there that I picked up on was telling yourself that you are enough, that you can do it,
Yeah.
that you are able to, and keep on reaffirming that belief, because
Yeah.
one of the things that we teach and which comes up over and over again is our limiting beliefs from childhood sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know if if you mums are the same, but my in-laws, if a child of mine is on a climbing frame, they are literally at the bottom shaking, because they're like, oh my god, what's going to happen now, right? Like, I'm not, and it is because my brother-in-law broke his arm when he was about 6 or something. So
Oh,
since then, especially my mother-in-law, she'll be literally like on the edge of a seat. But I've said to her that when he did break his arm, he got better. He's 40
yeah.
years old. His arm is fine, alhamdulillah, right? You have to kind of keep reminding them. So when my kids go and do stuff like that, it's really difficult to do it in front of daddy and dada, because they'll do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, we've, like, a lot of us have been brought up in a similar way.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, my mum and dad let us do stuff and break our arms and whatever. But
Mm.
at the end of the day,
And, and
that
and realizing that your child falling over, bumping their heads or breaking their arms is not a reflection of you being a bad mom. I mean,
oh
we take meaning to so many things so
yeah,
readily,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we have to catch ourselves, because if
yeah,
we do that, we're modeling it to our children, because then they're gonna do that.
exactly. And when you do that, they'll get scared of the climbing frame, but then they'll get scared of everything else as well. It
Yeah,
won't just limit themselves. So their belief will be, I can't do that. My mum
yeah.
doesn't think I can do that.
Or
And then,
their belief will be, if I do that, I'm going to get hurt. So then anything
yes,
else they want to try, it's going to be, or if
yeah,
I fail, or what if I do wrong?
yeah.
Yeah.
And taking
Make
risks.
Yeah, yeah. Taking risk is so important for
Yeah,
our children, and our children to go through, like the sister said, for them to be able to go through an illness or some hardship and then recover from it. It's important that they go through that process. That's parcel of life.
yeah.
It's funny you
And
talking about about the tree. My mom was the opposite. My sister would be like, "Oh my God, mom, he's climbing the tree," and my mom would go there. "Oh, you silly boy, don't put your feet there. Put your hands there and your feet there, and then climb over there." And mom was like, my sister would be like, "What are you saying?" She goes, "Well, if he's gonna climb, he might as well do it, say, properly." And
you were saying,
my mom. And then me and my sister realized my mom was a tomboy when she was little. She grew up with a lot of brothers. She just never told us because we weren't allowed to do it, you know. But when we remember both of them, sorry, I digress.
no, but that is absolutely brilliant, because that's the thing. And I think in the same way, our mums need to meet each other, having lots of brothers and being like that, because I'm just gonna, yeah, uh, I'll
Sorry,
share
I
this
know,
after,
totally off track, but it just made me
because it's
remember
gonna
that.
take us really off track. Right. So coming back to this, alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
we've had such a lovely time with you, Sister Rockshonara, today.
yeah. I was so honored to
And
be here. Thank you for having me.
no, thank you so much for coming along. And we've all learned quite a lot today. And I wanted to go back to 1 second to the affirmations, that just like reminding yourself that you are enough. And if you have
Mm,
to, write it on your mirror, so it's the first thing that you see in the morning, like when you wake up to go brush your teeth, read that I'm a good mom, it's going to be a good day today. And
mm.
then keep on reminding your children as well. And at some
I
point,
do it on the way to school with my
good,
children. I still
perfect,
do it. I do it now. I started off with my son after he had the bullying, and then my daughter picked it up because she'd be in the bucket. Now I just do it, and they'll be like, "Mom, we haven't done our beliefs." They don't call it. We don't call it affirmations. We call it our beliefs. Yeah. So on the way to school, we did the Bismillah taqaddal, the dua, and then if we get distracted, Mom, we haven't done our beliefs today. So it's like, I am strong. I'm smart. Allah loves me. Allah,
yeah,
because my daughter went through a phase where she was struggling with friendship. So it's Allah is my best friend. It's okay to make mistakes because that's how we learn. Whatever works for you, and then you can adjust it. These are just some basics that I use with my kids. And with children, saying I'm enough might be a bit too abstract, but you can say it to yourself. I know friends who stick it on their phone because these days we're on our phones a lot.
phone's
They
the
have it
best
as a
thing, isn't it?
wallpaper, or they have it stuck to their phone. But with children, it's you go by what's going on with their lives. But that's why being present will help you to know what affirmation is that they need right now. You know?
That's really important as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And we are actually gathering a list of affirmations. Again, that's why I picked That's why I picked up on that when you said it, because we're actually gathering, so from all the coaches that we work with.
Mm.
So I'll contact you later on for that as well. So, yeah,
Yeah.
inshallah. So just to let you all know that I'm going to let you go now, because I know
Yeah.
some of you have to go and pick up kids and things like that. But our next conference is coming up, inshallah, at the beginning of December. So you're going to have, you're going to be able to come to the conference, and then you'll still have the holidays to do whatever you need to do, because we're still trying to find the exact perfect time. But I think, like you said earlier, subhanallah, sometimes when you're listening to something, the different things that you pick up on might not
Yeah.
even be related. But
Yeah.
trying to find the perfect time for every single mom that we help, mashallah, there's
Yeah.
10,000 of you now in the Facebook group, which
Oh,
I'm
subhanallah.
so grateful to Allah to gather all of us together so that we
Mm.
can do things like this.
Mm.
Please make dua for each other. Please make dua for us. Make dua for all the coaches that come on. Just remember us in your duas, because that's all we need, honestly, inshallah. And we have our next course coming up, Communication with Love. So again, as Sister Rockshonara said today, as Sister Erin was talking about last week, and what we will talk about next week with Sister Miriam Javed, and we will be talking about how to communicate with the children, how to communicate with others, how to assert your boundaries or communicate those boundaries. So it's easy, I feel, for me to say sometimes, and I say this to my sister, I'm like, close your door, lock it, don't let anyone in. She's like, you can't do that when you live with everyone around. You can do that because you live so far away. And that is true, I guess, to some extent. But having those boundaries really is a lifesaver, because it
Yeah.
allows you to kind of do things at your own level, rather
Yeah.
than always having to pander to guests, or what
Yeah.
they're doing, or their kind of timing as well. That I've had a huge issue with timing. So I'll say to my husband, can we go to their house, or can we meet outside? Because then that means after that 1 or 2 hours, I can then go back home, and it
Yeah.
just helps with the whole, keeping to your
Yeah, but it's
routine.
communicating that. Not
Yeah,
we have a lot of for want of a better, passive aggressive way of
yeah,
responding to certain situations. We do it, it's true, but if you can communicate it, and then we fear the pushback that we'll get, and you will. But like I said last week to Sister Eram, it's the lesser of the two evils, and eventually, what is in line with Quran and Sunnah? What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to look after your mental well-being, because you yourself, your body, mind, body, soul is an amana from Allah. So if your mental health is being impacted by people, or by you not having boundaries, or people constantly pushing your boundaries, then you need to do something about it. You need to, it's uncomfortable, but this serves you. This serves, and you will find that when you're overstretched and you don't have boundaries, it impacts your salah, impacts your relationship with Allah, in every way. So it impacts your parenting, it impacts you so many ways. So if when you have boundaries, you are actually a better Muslim for it.
beautiful. MashaAllah. It's just a lovely note to finish what we're doing on. So,
Can I quickly just say, I know some of the other sisters, if they wanted, I'll put in the link a bit later on my Facebook page, where I do share
yeah,
lots of
and
advice,
your
free
group,
advice.
the
Yeah,
Facebook group.
my Facebook group, and my Instagram handle as well. I've been a bit quiet, like I said, because I've been family been unwell, but I'm gonna be, there's already a lot of stuff on there anyway.
You
And
got
if you
any
want to talk about,
workshops coming up?
yes, I just did a masterclass. I will hope to do another masterclass on supporting children with additional needs, and
Okay.
some tips, some more tips. But like I said, watch this space. I haven't set a date yet. So
No, that's absolutely fine. And
yeah,
obviously, you'll share it in our group when you
yes, I
do.
will, inshallah. Yeah,
That's
inshallah.
absolutely wonderful. And again, Jazakallah khair again. Thank you so much for coming. I've
Barakallah
really
feek.
enjoyed myself today.
I've enjoyed
Um,
myself too.
it's been
It's
wonderful.
finally. I'm so glad we did this finally. We've been talking about this for months.
I know it's been such a long time coming.
Yeah.
So again, Jazakallah khair. Sisters, thank you so much for
Yes.
coming. And if you are watching on the replay, just stick your questions in. Sister Rockshonara's in the group. She's answering questions, and she's always available for any extra help that you might need. All right, sisters, thank you so much for coming today. And oh, one more thing before I forget. Since it's the month of Rabiul Awwal, we are sharing our tips in how to encourage your children to love the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I should have said this right at the beginning, but alhamdulillah, I'm glad I remembered right at the end.
Yeah.
So if you just scroll down in the Facebook group, you'll see our tips. So I think I did a video, not I think, I did do a video yesterday, and I think the others are going to do them as time goes on. So Jazakallah khair again. Thank you for your love, your encouragement, your du'as, and keep them coming. And see you soon, inshallah, probably next week. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.